I wasn't looking for love. Not really. After my breakup in 2016, I spent months pretending I was fine, living in my small duplex on the edge of Bloomfield, Indiana. Life was a loop of work, cooking for one, and scrolling my phone until my eyes hurt. By fall 2017, I wanted distraction. Someone who didn't already know me, someone outside the small-town routine. I re-downloaded Tinder, not for fun or a relationship, just to talk to someone new. That's when I found Caleb. His profile was simple: him fishing in flannel, another with a golden retriever. Bio: just moved here, looking for reasons to like Indiana. Ordinary, real, enough to swipe right. We matched on a Friday. Messages flew back and forth for hours. He was clever, funny without being crude, thoughtful without heavy-handedness. 2 weeks later, he asked to meet. I hesitated. Dating apps rarely ended well, but something about him felt different. We met at Mason's Tap Room, a quiet bar with wood-paneled walls and beer-scented carpet. I got there first, nerves prickling. Ordered a cider. Texted him, "Be there soon." 15 minutes later, he arrived. Sandy hair, sharp jawline, but pale, worn, eyes shadowed. His smile didn't reach them. "Hey, sorry. Parking was a mess," he said, voice shaky. At first, the conversation was normal. Work, music, weather. Then it shifted. He stared too long, studying me. A tattoo on his forearm, an all-seeing eye, caught my eye. I joked. He didn't. "People who joke about crying usually die young," he said flatly. I texted my coworker Sierra to come by. When she and Emma arrived, Caleb's hand went to my knee, hard, whispered, "You have beautiful kneecaps." I froze. By the time they left, he'd drunk 7 beers. He followed me outside. "Can you drop me?" I hesitated but nodded. The streets were dark, rain starting. At a small bungalow, he leaned in, grabbed my jaw, and kissed me forcefully. My blood ran cold. I reached for my phone. "Get out of my car." Tears in his eyes, he whispered, "I'm in love with you, you're the one." I locked the doors and drove away, hands shaking. At home, 3 missed calls. A text: "You didn't say goodbye." I blocked him on everything, unsure if it was over. The next few days were unbearable. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach flipped. No new messages from him, no missed calls. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Bloomfield is small. People notice things, but even so, shadows seemed to linger too long when I walked home from work. I started taking different routes, looking over my shoulder constantly. At the coffee shop, I found myself jumping every time the bell rang. One evening, closing alone, I noticed a car parked across the street, engine off. I couldn't see inside, but it stayed there as I walked to my car. My pulse raced. I drove in circles for half an hour before returning home. That night, I checked the porch. Nothing. The next morning, I found a small, cheap umbrella leaning against my door. I hadn't left one outside. My hands shook as I picked it up. I called Sierra. She insisted I contact the police, but what would I even say? A guy from Tinder left an umbrella on my porch? It sounded ridiculous. I moved apartments 2 months later, changed my number, deleted every dating app. It didn't help the unease, though. Shadows in windows, the feeling of eyes following me. Sometimes, when I left in the morning, I would notice faint, wet footprints on my new steps, almost invisible but unmistakable. The rational part of my brain told me it was rain, mud, coincidence. But another part, the one that never sleeps, knew better. Then came Instagram, a new account, no profile picture, a message: "You left your umbrella in my car." I hadn't taken one. I deleted it immediately. Even months later, driving home late at night, I checked my rearview mirror compulsively. Any car idling behind me would make my heart skip. People told me I was being paranoid. They didn't know what it felt like to see someone in your peripheral vision and realize they weren't just a stranger. They were the person who had crossed every line, the one you'd thought you'd blocked out. I started sleeping with lights on. The hum of my refrigerator, the tick of the clock, they became my background, my reassurance. But the memory never faded. The way he had looked at me, the force behind his touch, the way he whispered words that should have meant love but felt like possession. I told myself it was over, that I had escaped, but the unease never left. Some nights, when the wind rattled my window, I imagined him standing outside watching, waiting. It had been 6 months since that night, but Bloomfield had grown smaller in my mind. I moved apartments, changed numbers, and stopped using apps. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he knew where I was. Every shadow, every movement outside my window made my pulse spike. One evening I was leaving the coffee shop after closing. The streetlights flickered as usual, and I saw a car parked across the street. Old, dented, familiar. The engine was off, headlights dim. My stomach dropped. I waited, hoping it would leave. It didn't. I took a long route home, glancing at my mirrors constantly. The car stayed put, silent, almost patient. Back at my apartment, I noticed wet footprints on the steps. Small, deliberate, the kind someone leaves when they want to be noticed without being caught. I called Sierra again, her voice panicked as I explained. She begged me to call the police. I hesitated. Would they even believe me? A guy from Tinder is leaving footprints on my porch. It sounded insane. A few nights later, I was walking to my car after work when I noticed someone standing across the lot. Hood up, denim jacket, figure still. My stomach tightened. I couldn't see the face clearly, but the stance was familiar. I froze. The person didn't move. I walked faster, trying to act normal, heart hammering in my ears. That night, my dreams were restless. Shadows moved in corners of my room, footsteps echoing just outside my door. I kept the lights on, doors locked, blinds closed, but the unease never left. Every sudden sound, a car door, a rustling bush, made me tense. Then came the messages. New Instagram accounts, unknown numbers. You left this behind. Why didn't you answer? Each one sent the same wave of panic through me. I never responded. I blocked every number, deleted every account, but it felt pointless. The feeling of being watched lingered. One night I swore I saw a figure standing at the corner of my street, barely moving, head tilted as if studying me. I ducked into a store until it left. When I finally got home, I noticed a black umbrella leaning against my door. Same cheap, unfamiliar one. I almost screamed. It wasn't just stalking, it was knowing. He knew when I left. When I returned, every shadow, every unexpected sound became him. And I realized I could run, hide, block numbers, move apartments, but it didn't matter. He had already learned how to make me feel trapped without touching me. It's been almost 3 years now, but some nights it still feels like he never left. The cops couldn't do much. No direct threats, they said. No proof he's actually stalking you. I moved again. New job, new town, new number. I don't even tell people where I live anymore. I keep my social media private. No photos, no tags. Still, the fear followed me like a shadow that learned my name. It was winter again, the same cold that used to hum outside my old duplex. I was driving home from work one evening when I saw it. Parked near the entrance of my new apartment building, a silver sedan with a dented hood. The same one I'd seen idling months ago. My fingers went numb on the steering wheel. I drove past without looking, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. When I got to my apartment, everything looked normal. Lights off, door locked, the faint hum of the heater. But on the table by the window, there it was. A black umbrella. Dry this time, like it had been waiting. I froze. My hands were trembling as I backed toward the door, phone in hand. No footprints outside, no sound, nothing but that impossible umbrella. I called Sierra, voice shaking. She told me to get out, to call the police again, but I didn't move. My eyes stayed locked on that umbrella like it might breathe. The next morning it was gone. Vanished. No sign it had ever been there. I told myself I was imagining things, that fear had turned into habit. But that night, around 3 a.m., I woke up to a sound, a faint dripping, steady, close. I turned on my lamp. Water. A thin stream running from my ceiling onto the floor. But when I looked up, the plaster wasn't wet. There was a small hole instead, I grabbed a chair, climbed up, and peeked inside. Something glinted. A phone lens. Tiny, hidden, pointed directly at my bed. I dropped the chair, heart racing, stomach twisting. I ran outside barefoot, called 911, crying so hard I could barely speak. The police came. They searched every inch of the apartment. In the attic above my ceiling, they found a camping mat, food wrappers, and a jacket. Denim. No one saw him. No one ever caught him. They said whoever it was must have slipped out before I called. That night, I checked into a hotel and never went back. It's strange. People think the scariest part of a story like this is the violence, the moment of confrontation. It isn't. It's the silence afterward, the part where you realize they could come back at any time, and no one would believe you. Now I sleep with the lights on. I don't date. I keep a camera facing every window, every door. But sometimes when the wind is heavy and the rain hits the glass just right, I still hear it. The slow drip from the ceiling. And in that half-asleep haze, I swear I can see him again. Standing there quiet, watching, waiting for me to believe I'm safe. It had been almost a year since my last relationship ended, and I'd gotten used to the quiet. My name's Ryan Keller, 27, a mechanic living alone in a one-bedroom apartment on the north side of Bloomfield, Illinois. The place isn't fancy, just peeling paint, a humming fridge, and a view of the parking lot. Most nights were the same, reheated dinners, the sound of passing cars, and the TV talking to no one. I told myself I didn't need anyone for a while, but loneliness creeps in quietly. One evening I reinstalled Matchup, the dating app I'd deleted months ago. My hopes weren't high. The first few matches reminded me why. One girl ghosted. Another got drunk on the first date. The third still loved her ex. I wasn't looking for love anymore, just someone real. Then I found Laya. Grant, her profile had only 2 pictures, one in a red hoodie at a park, the other a diner selfie. Her bio said, "Not looking for anything serious, just someone who gets it." That line hooked me. She messaged first. "Laya, you always wear that leather jacket?" Me, only when I'm trying to look cool. "Laya, you're doing fine. Want to hang out tonight?" It was sudden, but I said yes. She asked if my place was okay. I hesitated a second, then agreed. Around 10 p.m., a gray Honda pulled up outside. She stepped out, small frame, long dark hair, oversized hoodie. When she said, "Hey Ryan," her voice was soft but heavy, like she'd been crying. Inside, she looked around. "You live alone?" "Yeah." "That's good," she said quietly. We talked for a while upstairs, music, bad dates, work. She laughed at first, but then grew distant. Her eyes would drift toward the corner like she was watching something invisible. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just thinking about people," she said. "How they change when they stop pretending." The way she said it made my skin prickle. Around midnight, she suddenly said, "Thanks for letting me sleep here." "Sleep here?" I repeated. "You said we'd hang out for the night," she replied calmly. I made her a small bed on the floor and turned off the lights. She lay facing the wall. I eventually drifted off. Sometime later, I woke up. The blankets on the floor were empty. Then I heard faint murmuring downstairs, low, shaky, like someone whispering to themselves. I froze, listening. "Laya?" I called softly. No answer. I stood at the top of the stairs, straining to hear. The murmur from below wasn't steady. It rose and fell like someone having an argument. Through clenched teeth, I held my breath and took a cautious step down. The floor creaked and the whispering stopped. For a few seconds, there was nothing, just the hum of the fridge and my heart pounding in my ears. Then her voice started again, clearer this time. "Don't make me do it again," she said, trembling. "I told you I wouldn't." My chest tightened. "Laya?" I called quietly. No answer. I took another step, then another, until I could see a faint glow spilling from the kitchen. When I rounded the corner, my stomach dropped. Laya was sitting on one of the chairs, knees tucked to her chest, rocking slightly. Her hoodie sleeves were pulled over her hands. She was facing the wall. "Laya," I said again, keeping my voice calm. She didn't move. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "It's not you." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "It's him." The way she said it, flat, certain, sent a chill crawling up my spine. "Who's him?" I asked. Slowly, she turned her head toward me. Her eyes were wide, the pupils huge and dark. You shouldn't have let me in. My throat went dry. Okay, I managed. You're scaring me a little. Maybe you should be, she whispered. She stood up so suddenly the chair scraped against the tile. Then she walked past me toward the hallway, her shoulder brushing mine. He doesn't like when I talk too much, she muttered and started up the stairs. I just stood there frozen. For a full 10 seconds, my brain refused to process what was happening. When I finally grabbed my phone, my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I called my dad. It took 3 rings before he answered, voice groggy. Ryan, you know what time it is? Dad, I whispered. There's this girl from that dating app. She's here and she's acting weird, like talking to herself weird. He was quiet for a second, then said, Why is she in your house, son? I don't know. She said she needed a place to stay, but I think she's losing it. Ryan listened to me carefully, he said, voice suddenly serious. Don't try to deal with her yourself. Call the police. Right now. I swallowed hard, glancing toward the stairs. That's when I saw it, a shadow near my bedroom door upstairs, faint but moving. Dad, I whispered. What is it? She's up here. Dad, I whispered again, gripping the phone tighter. She's up there, just standing by my room. What do you mean standing there, Ryan? Before he could finish, Leia stepped into view. The hallway light from the bathroom hit her face just enough for me to see her. Eyes wide, fixed and hollow. A small, wrong-looking smile spread slowly across her lips. Leia, I said carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. Let's just talk, okay? She didn't reply. She just stood there for several seconds, head tilted slightly as if listening to something behind her. Then she whispered, He said you wouldn't believe me. My skin went cold. Who said that? That was the last thing I managed to say before she moved. 1 second she was standing still. The next she was sprinting down the stairs screaming. It didn't sound human. It was deep, raw, a sound that made the walls vibrate. I stumbled backward, the phone slipping from my hand as she crashed into me, sending both of us to the floor. Her hands clamped around my throat with shocking strength. I could smell something metallic on her breath, blood or rust, I couldn't tell. I struggled, grabbing her wrists and trying to push her off. But she was thrashing, eyes wild. Her nails raked across my neck and I shouted in pain. I managed to twist, using my weight to shove her against the wall. Stop, I yelled. What's wrong with you? Her head jerked back and her expression changed completely. Her voice trembled, barely a whisper. He told me you were the one. What? Who? He said you'd open the door. For a second I thought she was crying. But then she started laughing, soft, broken giggles that turned into sobs. I backed away, gasping for breath, and grabbed my phone off the floor. My dad was still yelling through the speaker. Ryan, what's happening? She attacked me. I coughed out. Call 911 now. I ran to the front door, half expecting her to chase me. But when I looked back, she wasn't moving. Leia was sitting again in that same kitchen chair, hands clasped, rocking slightly. By the time the sirens arrived, I could barely stand. 2 officers rushed in, flashlights sweeping through the room. They found her exactly where I said she'd be, still whispering to herself. When they cuffed her, she didn't resist. She just stared at the floor and murmured. I told him I wouldn't do it again. One officer turned to me. You said she came from a dating app? Yeah, I managed. He shook his head. You're lucky you woke up when you did. After the police took Leia away, the apartment felt wrong. The lights were still on, chairs knocked over. One of my picture frames cracked from where we'd fallen. I sat on the floor, throat burning, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold a glass of water. An officer stayed with me until the paramedics finished, checking the scratches on my neck. He asked a few questions, how we met, what she said, if she'd mentioned anyone else. I told him everything, every strange word, every whisper. He wrote it all down without looking surprised. When I finally asked who she was, he hesitated before answering. Her name's Leia Grant, right? I nodded. She's been reported missing for about 3 months. Her parents filed the report in Springfield. She's been in and out of psychiatric facilities for years. Escaped one about a month ago. The words barely sank in. Escaped? He nodded. We've been trying to track her since then. She's used fake names, stolen phones. Looks like she created that dating profile to contact people. You're lucky, man. We've seen worse. Lucky. That word echoed in my head as they left. When the door closed and the flashing lights faded, Silence filled the room again. But it wasn't the same silence as before. It felt heavy now, like something still lingered. I kept replaying her words in my head. He said you'd open the door. I didn't sleep that night. Every small creak made me flinch. Around dawn, I noticed something on the kitchen table, a folded napkin that hadn't been there before. My name was written on it in shaky handwriting. Inside, 2 words. He's waiting. I stared at it for a long time, too afraid to touch it. The police came back the next day to collect evidence. They told me she was being evaluated at a hospital, and that she kept repeating my name but refused to explain why. They said she might have been off her medication for weeks, that her he could have been a delusion. Maybe. Still, I can't shake the feeling that something followed her into my apartment that night. Sometimes when I'm fixing cars at the shop, I'll catch movement in the reflection of a window. Something tall, dark, gone when I turn around. I deleted Matchup the next morning and threw my phone in a drawer. Haven't re-downloaded any dating apps since. But sometimes late at night, when I'm lying in bed and the wind rattles the window, I swear I hear her whisper again, soft, close to my ear. You shouldn't have let me in. I hadn't planned on diving back into the dating world. Honestly, I wasn't ready. After things ended with Aaron, a breakup that felt more like a quiet collapse than an explosion, I promised myself a long break. But silence has a strange way of turning heavy. Evenings stretched endlessly, and the walls of my townhouse began to hum with stillness. One Thursday night, half out of boredom, half out of loneliness, I re-downloaded Tinder. The glow from my phone lit my face as I stared at my reflection in the dark screen, muttering, "Back to the circus, huh?" I live alone in a 2-bedroom rental in Dayton, Ohio. Work keeps me busy. Project coordinator for a small construction company, but not fulfilled. My co-workers are polite strangers. My friends mostly married or halfway across the country, so I swiped, absent-mindedly at first. That's when I came across Evan. He looked normal, too normal maybe. A few pictures of him hiking, one with a golden retriever, one in a brewery. His bio read, "Gainfully employed, mildly sarcastic, taller than your ex." I laughed. It was simple but funny enough to make me pause. Our chat started easily. He was quick with humor, confident but not arrogant. He asked about my job, favorite movies, the best coffee shop in town. He listened, like genuinely listened, which was rare. After a few days, we switched to texting. His messages were short but warm. He sent voice notes sometimes. His voice had that calm, steady tone that felt trustworthy. A week later, he texted, "Evan, you don't seem like someone who plays games." Me, only Monopoly. And I cheated that. Evan, good, I hate fake people. You seem real. I wanted to believe that. 2 weeks in, he messaged again. Evan, you like wine? Me, that's like asking if I like breathing. Evan, perfect. I'm sending you a little treat. What's your Venmo? I hesitated. But he sounded genuine and curiosity beat caution. Minutes later, $40 appeared in my account. Evan, 2 bottles, your choice. Consider it a small kindness. It was oddly sweet. Maybe too sweet. A few days later, he invited me to a small get-together at his place. Just some friends, burgers, beer, nothing weird, he'd said. Something in his tone made me trust him. Against my better judgment, I said yes. That Friday, the sky was washed in pale blue, that strange still light before dusk. I bought 2 bottles of red and drove to his neighborhood in Westerville. His house was tidy, lights glowing warm from the windows. He opened the door before I could knock, tall, clean-cut, friendly grin. Exactly like his pictures. Inside, 2 guys were watching football. Trent and Mason, he introduced them. They seemed normal enough, but when I glanced toward the kitchen, I froze. 2 cabinet doors were splintered, punched through, hinges bent at odd angles. I tried to laugh it off. What happened there? Evan, bad week. Cabinets were the victims. He grinned. Cheaper than therapy. I forced a smile, but something about it didn't sit right. The evening went fine at first. Music low, laughter casual, the smell of grilled meat drifting in from the backyard. I poured wine, tried to relax. Evan was charming, attentive, making sure my glass stayed full. By 10, Trent said goodnight. Mason lingered, then stepped outside for a smoke. That's when the air in the room shifted. Evan stood by the counter, scrolling his phone. Then, without warning, he slammed it down so hard the sound made me flinch. Meow, whoa, what's wrong? Evan, nothing. Me, you sure? You look... Evan, and I said I'm fine. The sharpness in his voice sliced through the moment. He grabbed a bar stool and hurled it across the room. It hit the wall with a violent clang. My body went rigid. Every instinct screamed leave. But I didn't move, not yet. Mason rushed in, cigarette still in his hand. Mason, man, what the hell was that? Evan, drop it. Mason, you're scaring her. Evan didn't answer. His eyes locked on me, wide, unfocused, like he wasn't fully there. He took a slow step toward me. Evan, stop. Then in a blur he lunged and bit my thigh hard. Pain shot through me like fire. I screamed, shoving him off. My jeans tore. He stared blankly for a second, then lunged again. This time I swung. The wine bottle cracked against his head with a hollow thud. He stumbled back, eyes glassy, then started laughing. Evan, you hit me. You bit me. He started pacing, muttering, then suddenly threw himself backward into the hallway wall. The impact made the drywall buckle. Mason, Evan, stop. Blood dripped from his knuckles as he slammed the wall again and again. I backed toward the door. I need to leave. Evan, don't go, please. My dad's sick. I'm not okay. Tears streamed down his face. It would have been tragic if it hadn't been so terrifying. Mason stepped between us. She's leaving. You need help, man. Evan's voice broke. We were supposed to go fishing. Fishing? What? My heart pounded so hard I couldn't hear anything else. I grabbed my coat, whispering, goodbye, and walked out. The air outside felt too calm. I stood in the driveway, shaking, clutching my keys. Mason offered to drive Evan home. Follow behind us, he said gently, trying to keep things calm. I nodded. As they got into the truck, Evan turned. His eyes looked hollow. Evan, why aren't you riding with me? I'll follow. I forgot something in my car. Evan, no, you're coming with me. He stepped closer. I stepped back. Evan, stop. I'm not. His face hardened. Evan, then go home. He slammed my door and stormed off. The truck roared away down the road. I sat for a minute, trying to breathe, then started my car. 3 blocks later, I saw him, standing in the middle of the street. Evan. His shirt was ripped, barefoot, staring straight into my headlights. Oh my God. He sprinted toward me, hand slamming onto the hood. His palms scraped across the metal with a horrible screech. He yanked my door handle, shouting, "Open up! I just want to talk." I threw the car into reverse, tires screaming on the asphalt. He chased after me, fast, stumbling, wild-eyed, until I shifted gears and sped off. In the mirror, I watched him disappear into the dark, shrinking into nothing. I didn't stop until I hit the main road. I didn't sleep that night. My thigh burned where his teeth had broken skin. Purple bruises bloomed by morning. By noon, I got a text from an unknown number. Mason. Hey, it's Mason. I'm sorry about last night. I've never seen him like that. Please don't call the cops. He's not well. A minute later, another text. Evan, I heard I lost it. I don't remember. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. I stared at the screen, numb. Then typed one message. You're lucky I didn't kill you. Blocked both numbers. It's been 6 months. I don't touch dating apps anymore. People tell me not to let one bad experience ruin things, but they don't understand. It wasn't just bad. It was wrong on a level that felt inhuman. Sometimes when I'm driving home late and my rearview mirror catches movement, I half expect to see him again, barefoot, wild-eyed, illuminated by my headlights. People like to say monsters aren't real. They are. They just text you first. I remember the night I decided to download a dating app again. It was one of those bitterly cold Fridays in February when the streets of Cedar Falls were empty and quiet. I was 22, single for nearly a year, and living in a small old house. My routine had turned painfully predictable: work at the auto shop, microwave dinner, scroll Reddit until I passed out. The silence in my house had started to feel like static, something that buzzed in my ears when the lights went out. So, after finishing a cold beer, I grabbed my phone and told myself it was time to try again. I downloaded Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, and finally OkCupid, because that's what lonely people do when they're tired of pretending they're fine. That's where I met Talia. Her profile didn't look fake. No over-edited selfies, no suspicious filters. Just 3 photos. One with a coffee in her hand, another at a record shop, and one where she was laughing beside a white cat. Her bio said, half introvert, half chaos. I love dogs, rainy nights, and people who actually reply. Something about her seemed easy, real, so I messaged her first. You had me at dogs and horror movies, she replied within minutes. And that's how it began, simple, normal human. For the next 2 weeks, we texted every night. She said she lived on the west side near Willow Bend, with her brother while saving for her own place. She told me she worked at a pet store and had a cat named Juniper who hated men but tolerated her brother. Our conversations weren't forced. She joked about bad customers, asked about my job, and sent me photos of her cat sprawled on laundry piles. She even teased me for liking gas station hot dogs. For the first time since my breakup, talking to someone didn't feel heavy. When I asked her out, she said, "Sure, you pick the spot." I'm easy. Well, not in that way. I laughed harder than I should have. We planned for Friday night, El Camino Grill. 6:30 p.m. I went to bed that night actually looking forward to something again. Friday came. Gray skies hanging low like smoke. I cleaned my car, changed shirts 3 times, even ironed one for the first time in months. By 6:20, I was driving through Willow Bend. The houses there were small, old, and close together. Flickering porch lights, dead leaves, cracked sidewalks. Talia's address led me to a beige one-story house with the number 228 nailed slightly crooked above the door. A dim yellow bulb lit the porch. A half-dead rose bush clung to the window. I texted her. "Hey, I'm outside." A few moments later, she replied, "Hey, sorry, my brother's being weird. He wants to meet you before I go." That gave me pause. "Is that necessary?" I asked. She texted back instantly, "He's protective, just humor him. I swear he's harmless." A minute later, the door opened and a tall man stepped out. He wore a black hoodie and jeans, broad shoulders, short buzz cut. He gave a polite nod. "You must be Talia's brother," I said, trying to sound relaxed. "Yeah, Derek," he replied. His handshake was too firm, his eyes too still. "She's getting ready," he said. "You can come in and wait, it's freezing out here." Every instinct screamed, "Don't." But I didn't want to look rude. Inside smelled faintly of cigarettes and grease. Jackets were piled by the door, and an old TV flickered static in the living room. 2 men sat on the couch, one in a beanie, one in a flannel shirt. Both looked older than me. Both turned to stare. "Just wait here," Derek said, climbing the stairs. "She'll be right down." The floor creaked with every step he took. The house was quiet except for the static from the TV. I nodded at the 2 men, forcing a smile. Neither smiled back. Something about the place felt off. There were no pictures on the walls. No sign of a woman living there. No shoes, no purse, no makeup on the counter. I pulled out my phone and texted Talia. "Hey, your brother said you're upstairs." No response. The longer I stood there, the heavier the air felt, like the house was holding its breath. "Give us a sec," Derek's voice came from upstairs. "She's looking for her purse." The man in flannel leaned forward. "So, you're picking up Talia?" "Yeah," I said, pretending to sound casual. He grinned without warmth. "Nice, you from around here?" I nodded slowly. My pulse picked up. The 2 men exchanged a quick glance, the kind you notice too late. I forced a laugh. "You know what, I'll just wait outside." Then from the stairs came a voice that wasn't Derek's. Low. Urgent. "Grab him." My body froze for half a second. Then instinct took over. I turned and bolted. One of the men lunged, catching my jacket. I ripped free, slammed into the front door so hard it cracked the frame, and stumbled into the freezing air. "Stop him," someone shouted. I sprinted across the yard, lungs burning, shoes slipping on the icy ground. My keys fell. I grabbed them with shaking hands and dove into my car. A fist hit the window just as I locked the doors. The glass shuddered under the impact. Come on," I whispered, twisting the ignition. The engine coughed, then roared to life. I threw the car in reverse, swerving onto the curb before flooring it down the street. In the mirror, I saw them standing in the road under the yellow porch light. 3 men, motionless, watching me disappear. No woman in sight, no Talia. I didn't stop until I reached the Speedway gas station by Main Street. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely unlock my phone. When I finally called 911, my voice cracked halfway through the story. The police arrived 20 minutes later. I sat on the curb, still shaking as I gave my statement. One officer, Ramirez, kept frowning at his notepad. "You said 228 Willow Bend?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "You'll see my tire marks." "They almost caught me." He exchanged a look with his partner. "That address again," he muttered. Turned out it wasn't the first time someone had reported that house. A few people had been lured there before through fake profiles on different apps. Some were robbed. Some just disappeared. What about the girl? I asked. Talia? Ramirez shook his head. No record of her. No one by that name ever lived there. Probably stolen pictures. That night, police raided the house. They caught 3 men. Derek was one of them. The 4th suspect escaped through the woods before they arrived. The OkCupid account vanished within an hour. For days I couldn't sleep. Every noise outside made me jump. I deleted all the apps, turned off notifications, stopped answering unknown numbers. But sometimes, late at night, I'd think about that porch, the crooked number, the flickering bulb, and wonder if anyone else was driving down Willow Bend, about to text, "Hey, I'm outside." Now, when people tell me online dating isn't that dangerous, I just smile and nod, because they don't know what it feels like to walk into a trap smiling, thinking you've found someone kind, only to realize the only thing waiting for you is a lie wearing someone else's face. And every time I drive through the west side after midnight, I swear I still see that same yellow porch light at 2:28 a.m. Dim, steady, waiting. It started on a quiet Thursday night, when snow blanketed everything in white silence. I'd been alone for nearly a year. Not lonely, just detached. Dating apps had become my small entertainment. During cold evenings, a distraction from the static hum of my radiator. Swipe left, swipe right. Faces blurred into each other after a while. Then I came across Lena. Her picture wasn't flashy like most. Just her sitting by a window in some cafe, coffee cup in hand, hair spilling across one side of her face. Her smile wasn't posed, it looked like it had caught her mid-thought. Something about it felt grounded. Her bio read, "No drama, just laughter and good energy." I messaged her. Me. Guess we're both trapped indoors thanks to this blizzard. Lena. Yeah, it's a whiteout out there. You holding up? Beacon barely. Netflix, beer, leftover pizza, survival kits complete. Lena. You've mastered the art of winter. Our chat flowed effortlessly. No fake flirting, no cliches, just simple, real conversation. I'd talked to plenty of matches before, but they all fizzled into small talk. With Lena, it felt easy. Familiar almost. After a while, I asked casually, "Ever actually meet people from this app?" "Not really," she replied. "You?" "A few times. Nothing wild." Then came the unexpected. "Lena, you seem cool. Want to hang out? Just a movie or something?" It startled me. Most people take days before suggesting a meetup. Still, her tone wasn't pushy. It was calm, certain. "Me, tonight?" "Lena, sure, I'm nearby. Brookdale area." That was only 10 minutes away. Against better judgment, I said yes. Sent my address. Lena, perfect. Be there soon. And then she went offline. No number, no extra photos, no last name. Just vanished. I figured maybe she was getting ready or her signal dropped. So I waited. An hour passed. Then 2. Nothing. By midnight, I assumed she'd changed her mind. I shut off the TV and went to sleep, unaware that night wouldn't end like the others. I woke to the pale light of dawn filtering through the blinds. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, 3 missed messages. Lena, $7 p.m. Hey, I'm coming now. Lena, 2:16 a.m. I'm outside. Lena, 3:02 a.m. You're cute when you sleep. For several seconds, I just stared at the screen, my mind blank. Then my chest tightened. Sleep, how would she? I turned toward my window. The blinds were slightly parted. Outside, the snow was disturbed. Footprints led directly to the glass. My throat went dry. I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. Then another message popped up. "Lena, check your closet." The words froze me. My closet door was cracked open, just a few inches. Enough for the darkness inside to stare back. I stood motionless, heart pounding so loud it filled the silence. Step by step, I approached it. The air felt heavier, colder. I grabbed the doorknob and yanked it open. Only coats, old boxes, nothing else. A chill brushed my neck. I turned. The window latch was open. Snowflakes drifted onto the sill. I slammed it shut, locked it, and backed away, trembling. I called my neighbor Tom, a retired Marine. Within minutes, he was at my door, eyes sharp. I showed him the messages. He muttered, "You gave her your address?" "Just on the app." Damn. These online people, you never really know who they are. We searched every inch of the house, nothing. Only those footprints outside. ending beneath the window. As Tom left, he said he'd keep everything locked tonight. I promised I would. But that promise didn't help me sleep. I barely closed my eyes for days after. Every sound felt amplified. The creak of the pipes, the hum of the heater, the ticking clock. My phone stayed on silent. No new messages. A week later, I convinced myself it was just a prank, someone trolling for fun. Maybe a catfish who got my location somehow. The fear dulled, replaced by exhaustion. Then came the 8th night. I woke up at 3:11 a.m. to a soft chime, 3 quick tones, the same notification sound from the dating app. My stomach dropped. I hadn't reinstalled it. The sound came again. Not from my phone. From outside. I crept to the window, moved one blind slat aside, and saw her. A figure standing in the driveway. Dark coat, hood up, the blue glow of a phone illuminating a pale face beneath. She was looking right at me, smiling. I let the blind fall, stumbled backward, and dialed 911 with shaking hands. The dispatcher told me to stay inside. When the officers arrived, she was gone. They found more footprints circling the house this time. No tire tracks, no sign of a car. Just the marks of someone pacing in the snow. When they left, I deleted every trace of my dating apps. Every account, every backup. I even changed my Wi-Fi name. But the thought kept me awake. If she'd been outside, watching, how long had she been doing it before I woke up? That was 11 years ago. I've moved across the state twice since then. New city, new phone number, new everything. I don't use dating apps anymore, not even out of curiosity. Still, winter always stirs something uneasy in me. The stillness, the muted world outside. The way snow absorbs every sound until it feels like you're underwater. Last night I heard it again. That same triple-tone notification. My phone was on silent. I froze, listening. Nothing else followed. Maybe it was the TV or a neighbor's phone, I told myself. But when I looked outside this morning, there were footprints, light, fading but fresh enough to trace. They stopped beneath my window. Every year, when the snow thickens and the world turns quiet again, I catch myself scanning the frost-blurred glass for that shadow of a figure, the faint sound of a message that shouldn't exist anymore. Sometimes I think about that first night, her calm tone, the simplicity of her smile. Maybe she never left. Maybe she never needed the app to find me again. And every time I hear a soft chime in the dark, I still whisper to myself, "Don't look at the window.